So you clicked on my video and you're trying to discover what's the best place to live if you make your money online. Maybe you're a digital nomad or you just don't need necessarily the most expensive area or you're building your business online. Well, it just so happens I'm from the number one city across the entire nation, Kansas City, Missouri. In this video, I'm going to go over just all the reasons why Kansas City, in my opinion, is the number one spot for anyone that works remotely or doesn't need to go to a day-to-day job. And we're going to be covering everything from housing to just everything that you could possibly imagine if you're building your business online in some manner, or you have a job that doesn't require you in the office even once a year. And just to go over some of the other cities on this list, there's also Columbus, Ohio, Portland, Oregon, Houston, Texas, St. Louis, Missouri, Chicago, Illinois, Cincinnati, Ohio, San Antonio, Texas, Detroit, Michigan, Denver, Colorado, and last but not least, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And yet I still think Kansas City is number one on that list. As I go through all these cities, if you're from any of them, drop a comment where you're from. I always love knowing who's watching my videos and who's consuming my content. So let me know what city you're repping. Now you're probably wondering why Kansas City's number one on this list. So for those that don't know, Kansas City's rental market just started kind of catching up to the rest of the nation. So with that being said, it's on the cheaper side. Real estate, you can easily find a 3-bed, 2-bath house for like $250,000 easily in today's time. On top of everything, you're talking about the taxes. So taxes is some of the lowest in the entire country. When you go out to places like California, Florida, New York, these more populated cities, you come to the Midwest, I mean, you aim anywhere, any direction about 30 minutes, you're rural. You're talking about you're in the country, which would usually fear some people that were moving here. I have to say, just specifically from me building my entire business off a line, the Wi-Fi, phenomenal. I pay $80 a month. I get 1 gig internet speed from Google Fiber. In many different places, Spectrum's out here, dude, less than $100 will get you the fastest internet around. I know if you're like me, you've got to have speed. On top of that, with the housing prices, how cheap they are, you get so much more bang for your buck. Realistically, if you are building an online brand or if you're building an online business, this is the spot to be because you're saving so much money. Unless you're just absolutely destroying it and you don't care about how much money you save a month, Kansas City should be really number one on your list as to where you should move to save the most amount of money. Personally, I was beyond surprised to see Kansas City being number one. I got this random idea from YouTube and I was like, man, I just looked it up and it said Kansas City was number one. I started doing some research and the housing market has definitely went up compared to other places here. Nothing like 50, 60%. We have grown some of the lowest numbers in the entire country. And we have some of the biggest companies coming to Kansas City, which is only going to push values up and up. So if you hate making money, probably stay where you're at. But if you love making money, Kansas City should be number one on your list. And I want to introduce myself. So I'm Big Mike. I'm a Kansas City real estate agent. And I've been in the business for about 5 years now. I help people moving across the state, even across the streets. I always love helping people whenever they call me. It's my duty to not only respond, but answer and find out why are they looking to make a move. So if that might be you, reach out. I'd love to have just a quick conversation. Don't hesitate to call me. Now let's go over some of the pros of living in Kansas City. I've already kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and hit it again. The affordability factor. So with Kansas City being in the absolute middle of the country, everything flows through Kansas City. What does that mean? Why do you care? Guys, with everything flowing in Kansas City, you don't pay extra for shipping charges. You don't pay extra for fuel charges. You don't pay extra for flight charges. You don't pay extra for whatever fee you may find. When everything is centralized, Kansas City, you have to come through it to get to anywhere. Texas, you have to come through it. Florida, from Washington, you have to come through it. From maybe New York to Texas, New York to California, whatever the case may be. Kansas City is a hub that all trucks flow through, all railroads flow through. On top of some of the cheapest real estate in the entire country, Kansas City is nothing to balk at. And I'm going to keep just saying Kansas City. Now, if you go look online, there are some headlines out there. Yes, Kansas City per capita, there are certain places in Kansas City that are not very safe. I'm not going to hit that too deep because I am a real estate agent, but you can look up the crime-ridden spots. Basically, I believe in that term, don't start no drama, won't be no drama. So it's one of those type of scenarios. If you want to avoid all possible crime ridden to the best of your abilities, the more suburban areas are your best bet. Don't go looking for the cheapest places out there possible. Find a house with a very nice neighborhood, and truthfully, if you really want to find a nice house, go cruise that neighborhood at nighttime. For one, you'll see how many cars are parked in the streets and see how packed it is. But for two, cruise that neighborhood and see how do people maintain their lawns. When my clients and investors call me and they ask me how the neighborhood is, this is my number one factor. I will show them just the entire street of lawns, and if they're extremely manicured or do they have a lot of BS in them. Like, the more people don't care about their houses, normally the more lower income they are, and more lower income is a natural more crime area. Maybe you're coming from a place like California, Florida, New York. Well, unfortunately, Kansas City is not going to be that big of a party scene like that. Now, with that being said, you're going to have to be converted to be a Chiefs fan or a Royals fan. Kansas City is heavy on their sports. You know, the Chiefs have won a few Super Bowls now in the last few years. They're talking about a three-peat this year as they're looking. But seriously, there's nightlife facilities, but nothing crazy like Vegas. I've never been to California. If I had to use my imagination around there, Kansas City is a more low-key, more eventful city. We have an art museum down here. We have great shopping areas. We have a couple drinking areas where there's just a massive amount of bars. One is a more higher class, and then the one is more college age people. There's so much to do, though, outside of just drinking. Personally, I've stopped drinking myself, and I've never had more fun. So, I mean, it's fun to just go play tourist guide in your own city, because recently we got voted as the #1 city to travel to, which I didn't see why, but there's so many cool and neat things that most people can't even fathom in their cities, or it's so sketchy to go see some of these areas that people don't even make the track. Now, I mentioned earlier about how much money you could possibly make. So this is all opinion based, but with how much is going in to Kansas City and even the surrounding suburbs, you're talking about Overland Park, Olathe, Liberty, Lee Summit, even Smithville and Kearney. If you're around my area, there's so much infrastructure getting put in. Kansas City recently announced these big companies could get some major tax breaks if they come establish their businesses. The tax breaks were significant enough to not only build new buildings, but see a long-term spot for them to contain their business. So just to give you guys perspective, when Kansas City did that, major companies came and took a look. Panasonic, Google, Facebook, just to name three that you guys are definitely familiar with. So if you're not from the area, this is something that you absolutely need to know. So we have the City of Fountains. You go down to the plaza, you'll see, I think it's like 55 fountains down there. That's kind of our niche. We brag about having the best barbecue out there. It's I love the barbecue. Some people don't. It's all up to opinion based. And then we definitely love our Chiefs and our Royals. So big sports towns, and we have the only women's soccer stadium in the entire world. So that just recently got released this last year, actually. Now, I'm going to complain about this, but if you're coming from a really overpopulated city, you're going to laugh at me. Between the hours of about 7:30 to 9:30, we have rush hour traffic, which basically add on an additional 20% to whatever your time is. So it's not stop and go. Basically, we have the biggest one going I-29 south, and it normally would take from let's say Shoto down to downtown. It normally would take about 10 minutes or so. You're talking about there's probably about 20 to 25 minutes to get downtown at that rate. And I truly believe it's always one a-hole out there that really ruins the entire traffic. So normally every single morning you'll find that one a-hole, and that's it is what it is. But truthfully, if everyone was just cruising the same speed, I don't think we would have traffic like I've seen online. There's no 2-hour dilemmas. There may be from downtown up to where I live near Gladstone. You're talking about maybe 20, 25 minutes in the very heart of rush hour traffic. Now, if you are moving around the country, something to keep in mind of is the weather here. Like when you come to the Midwest, I don't know what some people think. Florida is kind of nice all year round, but it rains a bunch. I've seen from California, it kind of rains a bunch there too. It's all sunny. We get extremely hot, 100, 110 during the summer, maybe about a week's worth. And then we get extremely cold, about 0 degrees, maybe slightly colder with some wind chills, maybe a week's worth. Basically, we stay mainly between 20 degrees and I would say 90, 95 degrees here. But truth be told, it's such a short amount of time. Like, I'm not sure if I had to assume like Arizona where it's just weeks staying over 100. We're not like that. I've never had that. It's normally it'll be weeks about 90 degrees, maybe a week's worth of 100 degrees temperatures, and that's about it. And then during the blistering cold, it's the same thing. Maybe a week's worth of blistering cold, but it's usually maintained about 20 to 30 degrees all year around for the winter. Now, those are just a few of the things that we don't like. Truth be told, though, I would not live here if I didn't absolutely love it here. And I know for a fact if you don't live here and you're even thinking about it, you're going to love it here too. Now, Kansas City may not be your number one choice in this world, but I would seriously consider place it up against everywhere else. Seriously, give us a try, give us a shot. On top of that, you're going to know a very nice real estate agent that can help you find your house if and when you do decide to make a move. Now, I'd love to know down in the comments, what are your ideas? Do you think Kansas City's number one, or do you think somewhere else would be number one? Drop it in the comments, your favorite city, your favorite state. Let me know how it is. I would love to hear from you and just hear some of the feedback that some of you guys are mentioning. As always, this is Big Mike Sells KC and another banger video for you guys to consume. Much love. I'll see you again.